All right, we're going to take a look at drawing challenge 1. This is the simple floor plan. We're going to take a look at 3 parts. Part 1 is basic drawing setup. Part 2 is going to be the design development. And with part 3, we're going to take a look at page setup for presentation from the model space. Let's just jump right into basic drawing setup. What you want to take a look at is for this particular drawing, we're using letter size portrait, 8.5 by 11. We want a target output scaled to 1/4 inch is equal to 1 foot. So based on those requirements, let's take a look at how we're going to start this project. From the startup dialog box here, we're going to start from scratch. We're going to start with imperial feet and inches to set the drawing type. And now as we continue to define the units and precision as well as the drawing limits, I want to draw your attention to the menu bar up here. Okay, you should find your format menu there. And this is where you can access all of the layer properties, the text style manager, as well as the remaining annotation style managers, and units and drawing limits. Let's start first with units. So we're going to take a look here at type on the top left. We're going to use our architectural units. Now, in terms of precision, understand that for our annotations, we want to be able to show our annotations at least 1/8 of an inch or as small as 3/32 of an inch. And so what we need to do here is be able to provide the precision, okay, that we need to show that size of text. Now, as well, you can see that in our drawing, okay, we only show the feet and inches. So I'll show you later when we look at Dimension Style Manager how we're going to control that display of the precision. Also, if you look at angle, we're going to leave it in the default settings. We have decimal degrees with just whole degrees for precision. Also, take a look here at sample output, and you can see there a sample of the unit formatting. Once you review these settings, we'll go ahead and click OK, and then take a look at the drawing limits. All right, so now that we've defined the units and the precision, once again, let's visit the format menu there, and we're going to take a look at drawing limits. Now, we should have already worked out on paper, right, what our drawing limits are going to be. And again, we define those drawing limits by figuring out what the target sheet size is going to be, as well as our target scale. Based on the scale, we can determine the scale factor, and using that information, we can multiply each side of the sheet that we're going to use to come up with our drawing limits. If you take a look at the command line here, you can see that the drawing limits is really defined by a lower left corner and an upper right corner. If we use the default that's shown there, 0, 0, as the lower left corner, hit enter, and now when you take a look here at upper right corner, this is what you could input from your results to define the upper right corner. So there we've got 408, comma, 528. Now we could input that as inches, and you'll see to verify your limits, hit enter, and then when you hit enter again, you access that same previous command. You can verify lower left corner is the origin, and the upper right corner now you can see it's converted inches to feet and inches. Okay, that's based on our unit format selection. All right, so you can see that our limits now are going to be able to accommodate up to 34 feet by 44 feet. Certainly enough to present our model in. So let's just hit enter there to escape, to get out of that. And now the next thing we want to do is take a look at our annotation styles. But before I do that, I want you to be able to visualize the drawing limits. So let's take a quick look at our drafting settings down here. Okay, this is in the status bar. We're going to be using polar tracking, object snap. We're going to use object snap tracking. We're not going to use this UCS here. And you may or may not want to use dynamic input. As we go through the video, I might show you some examples here. So I just have very minimal drafting settings here. And if you take a look at the polar tracking settings, you can see that I'm tracking 15 degrees. If you select settings here, you can actually access the drafting settings dialog box. That way you can set up all of the drafting settings at one time. Let's start by looking at the snap in the grid here. You can also see how you can turn on and off the drafting settings with function keys. We're going to turn on the grid, and we're going to look down here in the grid behavior. We're going to go ahead and leave the adaptive grid on, but you're going to remove display grid beyond limits. Okay? And this way you'll only be able to see the visible area of the grid so that it can be representative of the drawing limits as well as the target sheet for the scale that you intend to print. So if we take a look at polar tracking, you can see here this is where you can choose your increment angle, or you could create new angles to track. As well, in Object Snap here, I would avoid selecting all of them. It just slows your drafting down. But what you should have includes endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, intersection, and extension. That's pretty much all you need for your drafting settings for now. Click OK when you have that set, and then now we can proceed to define the annotation styles. So I draw your attention here to the ribbon. We're in the Home tab. I'm going to jump over to the Annotate tab. Now you could do this also from the Format menu. You can see here in the Format menu, Text Style Manager, Dimension Style, and Multi-Leader Style. I like to use the ribbon because this way I can see visually what my annotation styles are, and I can also use the drop down to select from the various styles that I create. So you can see there's some standard ones or some default styles already created in the basic template here. What we're going to do is we're going to use this corner flyout button here to access the Text Style Manager. In the Text Style Manager, you can see in this window all of your defined text styles. For each text style that you have selected here, you can see its respective preview. And then on this side, all of the settings that you can adjust your text style for. What we're going to do is we're going to make all our text styles annotative. The reason for that is because we can tell the computer what size to make it, no matter what scale it's printed for, and AutoCAD will automatically resize your annotations, okay, as long as they're annotative styles. So you can see here I have annotative selected. I'm going to create a new style, and I'll call this one Notes. Okay, now you can see I have a new style there, and these are the settings for that style. And typically we can use something like Romans or Helvetica or Arial. Okay, there's Romans, there's your preview for that. We're going to make this text height 1/8 of an inch. So also think about the syntax, the way that you're going to input numbers or the unit formatting. You could also type in 0.125, for example, and you could see how that automatically gets changed, right, to 1/8 inch. Then you have all these other effects here. I'll show you in a second how we can use them. So here's one text style that we'll use for our title block. Just apply, and we'll create a new one. And I'll call this one Dims. Okay, this is the one that we'll use for dimensions. And I'll slightly make it different. We'll use the same text style, but this one here, I'll make it 3/32 of an inch. Slightly smaller than 1/8. I'll also decrease the width factor and provide an oblique angle. Okay, so you can see what the changes in the settings produce in your preview window here. Now, when you're finished with the Text Style Manager, you never want to hit this cancel box right here, okay? Because what you do here is you cancel all your settings. Make sure you apply and then close. Now, once again, in the text panel here, you can see now I have newly added text styles. So I always like starting with text styles because everything else is dependent on it, right? When you create a new dimension style by using this button here, you get the Dimension Style Manager. Once again, on the left side, you will see the list of available dimension styles. Right now you just have a standard, non-annotative, and then the annotative dimension style. What I'll do is pre-select it to create a new dimension style. I'll give it a name. I'll call it ADIMS, for example, and you can see that it's annotative. It's selected here. When you continue, now you can change the properties or the parameters for all of the different elements that control the appearance of your dimensions. So this right here is your preview window, and as you make changes, you should see it update. Let's start first with lines. Okay, in this area, you control the dimension lines, and in this area, you control the extension lines. Now, you can see here that we have a property here to extend beyond the dimension lines. I'm going to decrease that to 1/16 or 1/8 or 3/32. Just explore in the beginning, see what happens, see what changes occur, get comfortable with it. Then you'll see, if you go to the next tab here, symbols and arrows, for architecture I want to show architectural ticks. Okay, and I'll make these 3/32 as well. And then we'll move on to the next thing, which is going to be the text style. Now here in text appearance, I'm going to use one of the text styles that I created earlier, right? I'm going to use DIMS. And take a look here at the preview. See how it adjusts? Also, to make it easier to see these on screen, is I'm going to use a different text color, and I'm going to use yellow. You can see down here below the text height is locked, right? Because it's defined by the text style. Also, you can take a look in this area where you can adjust the alignment of the text. I'm going to keep it horizontal. And then lastly, I want to take a look at primary units. Now here, this is where I said before, right? The precision for the drawing at all levels occurs in the Format Units dialog box. Here in the primary units for the dimension style, this is where I can control how much of that precision I can show. Okay, you can't go higher here than what you have in the units, but you can go lower. So here I don't want to show that much precision, but also I want to make sure I use the architectural unit format, and I don't want to show any fractions because I just want to show feet and inches. Okay, so once you review all those settings, just click OK, and you'll notice that this newly created dimension style is the current dimension style. If you want to make another style current, you can select it here and then use this button. But right now you can see I have ADIMS. Go ahead and close. So I have text styles, I have dimension styles. Now let's take a look at leader styles. Okay, we're going to use the leader style here for construction note callouts and for a variety of other plan symbols later on. I'm going to come over here and use that corner flyout button, and here's the multi-leader style manager. Now I'm going to create a new multi-leader that uses a leader and text block. Alright, but I need to make it annotative. So this is the only window that's different from the other previous two. This is how we're going to do it. I'm going to click on new, and I'm just going to give it a very simple name, a leader, right? An architectural leader. This is where you check it to make it annotative. I'll continue, and then I have the leader format, the leader structure, and content parameters. You can see here under leader format, you could change it from straight to spline or none. I'm going to use just straight. When I look at leader structure, the only thing that I'm going to check here is a maximum leader points of 2. It's already set there, so I'll just leave it. And then in the content, this is where you can use blocks together with your leaders. But we're going to keep it as mtext, and we're going to use the DIMS text style. Again, you can see how it's limited to 3/32 of an inch. And this will be true for any scale that you use. Click OK once you've confirmed those settings, and then close. Now we've completed just about everything we're going to use for our basic drawing setup, with the exception of how we're going to organize all of this drawing information. So for that, let's take a look back here at home. And here in the middle, you're going to see your layers panel. All right, this is where you can use the drop down to select the current layer that you're going to be drawing on. Right now you can see we only have the layer 0. So what I'm going to ask you to do is take a look at your assignment sheet here, okay, and you'll be able to see there what the layer list is that we're going to use. Now, I'm not going to do all of these layers while we're talking here, but let me show you how to just develop a couple. Let's take a look at A doors and A furniture. For example, we show the properties here red and continuous. Actually, let's do A doors, and there should be another one there with a different line type. I don't see it right now, but let's just do a couple of them right there. All right. So, just to show you how to work with the layers properties here, you can use this button to call up the layers properties. The layers property window is actually a palette. Okay, you can fix it to your interface just by moving it over the edges, or you can drag it by grabbing the title bar and let it float, just like that. So you could even put it on your other screen and always have it available. All right, here this is the only palette, one of the only palettes that you can just close out and you won't lose any of your changes. So just to show you how to work with it, we're going to use this button to create a new layer. So for example here, we're going to create the layer A doors, okay, and again take a look at the spreadsheet there so you can see what the properties are, okay, and here you can see we're going to use a red and continuous, and for example here's A dims, blue and continuous. So as you create a layer, you can scroll left to right. You have your status buttons here. You'll notice that the layer is on and thawed and unlocked. You could turn on and off the information by using this button, but you can still edit the information that's on a layer. If you use the freeze button, right now that it's thawed, you can see the information on that layer, but when you freeze it, you can neither see it nor edit. When you use the lock and unlock button, you can see the information, but when it's locked, you cannot edit. It's very important that you guys understand the difference there. And then here in this color swatch, if I click on the block, this is where I can change the color. Now you can see that you have about 255 colors plus, and if you draw your attention to this area right here, okay, you can see these are the standard colors. You have red, which is color 1, yellow, color 2, green, color 3, cyan, color 4, blue is number 5, magenta is 6, white is 7, and then you have gray 1 and gray 2. You will have a quiz on these. You also have the screen colors. The screen colors here, you can see 250, 51, 52, 53, 54, and 255. 255 looks just like white. The difference is 255 is a no plot color. You'll see it on screen, but nothing will ever print if you use that color. These other colors are simply shades of black. Okay? Now, if we're going to specify a color, we can actually write it in by name if it's a standard color, or you can just use the number. So once you select it here and click OK, then it'll be applied to the layer. All right? If you want to change the line types, click on the line type name, and then you have the line type loader. Now here, what you'll see is, actually this is a line type manager, you'll see that only the continuous line type is there by default. You'll have to use load in order to select. For example, let's pick up the center line here. We'll select the center line, and you could use control click to select multiples. To apply it, you actually have to select the line type and click OK to apply it to the layer, right? You could always change it just by going back into that dialog box and making your selection. So I'll go ahead and fill in these, and then we'll continue with the next part in the next video, part 2, design development. Once we completed the layers here, before you start drawing, I want you to pay attention here to your scale, your annotation scale, okay? Because before you start drawing, you're going to want to make sure that you set this and that you turn it on. I'll start with this point in the next video.